We're back with the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully. It's a two-person jury while Darren is still on vacation in Hawaii. It's also a Friday jury, so we're really switching it up today. And we'll be deliberating over our best bets and fades at Colonial Downs. We'll look at Saratoga. Both have opening weekend this weekend, and we'll also talk Horseshoe Indy and Woodbine racing as well. But before we jump into our best bets, I wanted to mention it's our final week of our handicapping contest. James and I both are winners of previous weeks, so we'll see who comes out on top in the final week. But James, I think, is kind of just up there in general. I think finished second the first week, won the second week, and then I don't know where you finished last week. I beat you last week, but I know
Yeah.
you pretty much every week have been consistently at the top or right near the top. So very well done.
Well, thank you very much, Ashley. And yeah, we're excited here at TwinSpires to get into the handicapping contest. It was fun to do this 4-week run with our fantasy handicapping picks.
And then we have the Diana this week, the Stanford, and the Million Preview Stakes on tap for our 3 races for our final week of the contest. Head to our social channels to see how to enter that final week of the contest and participate. But let's jump into our best bets of the week. And James, I think yours is in the Diana. So tell me who you're playing in that race.
My best bet is going to be number 6, White Beam in the Diana Stakes. And White Beam is a filly or a 5-year-old mare that in her last 4 starts, she's been forced to track the speed in second, really in every U.S. start since coming here. But I'm going to focus on her most recent efforts. First 2 outings this year, she finished a close second in the Bogey Stakes at Aqueduct, and then a close second in the Just a Game at Saratoga last month during the Belmont Stakes Festival. But the real key to me liking White Beam in this spot is that I think the pace dynamics are going to favor her on Saturday. In that Just the Game Stakes, Evie Jets was drawn to the inside of White Beam, and she went right to the front. And White Beam had to track her in second. Evie Jets weakened to be fourth that day. Evie Jet's best career performance came when she was stalking the pace in fourth last year in the Boston Spa. I think that her connections are aware of that, and she's going to, in turn, on Saturday, not be setting the pace. She's going to be looking to be press up either in second or third. That's going to leave White Beam dictating fractions up front with Flavian Pratt. This 5-year-old mare absolutely runs her best races at Saratoga. She ran a huge race last year when beating in Italian in the Diana, and then she comes off this last start in the Just a Game at Saratoga where she just got run down late by Chili Flag on the outside, but still a very game performance by White Beam. It'll be her 3rd start of the season for Chad Brown, and I'm going to look for her best performance on the front end of the Diana, Ashley.
It's always so hard when Chad Brown has multiple runners in a field, and he's got 5 in this race. I kept going back and forth with so many of them and almost went with Chili Flag, but ultimately settled on the morning line favorite Didia just because of her overall record on the turf, especially for our fantasy contest. We're doing a win place show payout, so I went Didia here for that reason, just thinking she will definitely finish in the money. But yeah, you could be right with White Beam. It's just, how do you even differentiate when Chad Brown has this many horses? Do you ever look when a trainer has 4 or 5 runners and say, I think this horse here is being used as a rabbit, or I think he's trying to get this horse a start? How do you strategize there?
I'll tell you, it varies. I mean, I don't think that you can sometimes read too much into it because it'll turn around and bite you. I mean, last year's Diana was a good example. White Beam, I believe Chad Brown had 4 in the field, and she was the longest priced of the group. Even this year in the First Lady at Keeneland, in the Jenny Wiley at Keeneland, Boot Cachet was the longest price, 25-1 of a bunch of Chad Brown runners in there, and she just got out in the lead and stole it. So It's a case by case situation to me. I think a little bit with Didia is that she is definitely could win this race off of her win in the New York last month. She ran a huge race there, but I've made the argument in the past she runs her best races with time between them. She came back a little bit fast in the First Lady off of the Pegasus World Cup Filly Mare Turf and got beat that day. So I'm going to try to beat her in this Diana, but I still respect her chances.
You mentioned Butte Cache. I won't forget that either because that knocked me out of the pick 5 that day at Keeneland. But yeah. Frankie Dettori is aboard Coppice, so it did have me wondering, could we see something similar with him aboard a Chad Brown runner kind of flying under the radar? So don't overlook Coppice either in that race, at least in the exotics. But I will take it over to Colonial Downs for opening weekend. My best bet is number 6, Fulminio in the Boston Stakes. It's the inaugural Boston Stakes 1 mile on the outer turf. And this is a closer for Arnaud de la Cour, who won last out in the James W. Murphy Stakes at Pimlico on May 18th. It was over soft turf, which we're going to get at Colonial. It's been raining all day today, and I think we're going to have some thunderstorms early in the day on Saturday. So I'm expecting soft turf if we even stay on the turf. And even if we don't, Fulminio has pretty good form on main tracks as well. So we'll see what happens, which surface they're racing on. But I do think this is a good runner, not a great price, 2-1. But the second choice on the morning line favorite is number 8 in a jam at 9-5, who won on all weather last out and has 2 wins from today's distance. But outside post could be a concern, and also no experience on soft turf. So I do expect if we are racing on the turf that there will be some give in the turf as well tomorrow. So I'm going Fulminio, has 2 wins, 3 seconds from 6 starts on the turf, and also broke his maiden at Colonial last year. So that's my angle, second choice on the morning line. Hopefully maybe a better price by post time, but likely going to be around that 2-1 price, I think.
Yeah, I mean, once they got him back on the turf this spring, it really made a big difference. They did try Fulminio like on a Derby prep, ran him in the Sam Davis, a couple dirt starts earlier this year, but that last race at the James Murphy was pretty nice. And one thing about those Pimlico races, they can be a little bit of a mixed bag, but I've seen some horses come back from those stakes and run very well. And Fulminio doesn't appear to be facing the toughest group in here.
Well, let's talk about the horses that we're fading at a short price. So, James, who do you have?
I'm going to fade number 1, Nadette. It's in the Beverly D Preview Stakes. Colonial Downs Saturday program has 3 stakes. You referenced the Boston, the inaugural running of that. And then when they also have the Beverly D and the Arlington Million Preview Stakes on Saturday. Nadette is invading for Neil Drysdale in the Beverly D. And this is a 5-year-old mare who 2 starts back in the Wilshire Stakes at Santa Anita. I thought she caught a really soft group that day, managed to prove best. That snapped a 12-race, 23-month losing streak for Nadette. And the one thing about her is, even in like these races she's losing, I mean, 3 of her last 5 races she's unplaced in. So she's not even that, she doesn't always just run second or third. I think she's a 1-run stone closer in here. There's not going to be a ton of pace. I could easily see her coming up a little bit short from way off the pace. So I'm going to try to beat Nadette at short odds in the Beverly D. Ashley, who's your favorite?
Well, I was going to say, this is a mare who raced overseas and since coming over to the U.S. just has 1 win in 11 starts and has been racing over in California. So I agree with you. And I really like Canisi in this race. Did you have a horse that you're planning to back or just playing a couple if you're doing, horizontals?
I like that number 3, 5 towns, for Grand Motion. I thought she was a decent handicap type in England. And she really started to come around in her 3rd U.S. start, won the Dahlia Stakes 2-bag for Grand Motion. She comes off a 2nd in the Stormy Blues or in the Gallarat at Pimlico. So I look for her to run a good race. But Canisi is obviously the other top win contender in my eyes.
And I will take it over to Horseshoe Indy, and I will be fading number 11 Everland at 3-1 in the Horseshoe Indianapolis handicap. This is 1 mile on the turf, and it's an arrogant filly who you may recognize in the Kentucky Oaks and has been switching surfaces in her last three. So she raced in the turf out and finished at Oaks, which was 3 back. But the fact that she's been switching surfaces hasn't shown very much consistency, and her 2 turf starts finished out of the money. So I'm looking to play against her here. Her last out speed figure was an 83 as well. And if you look at the other runners in this field, we have several who have higher Bristnet speed figures last out. Neon Beach, Stylish Sue, Kodiak Wintergreen, and Buttercream Babe all posted a couple points higher in their last race. So I see a lot of reason to play against Everland. I know she's going to draw some attention just because she had raced in the Oaks and did well in the Bourbonette Oaks and, just ran in a grade 3 on the turf. But I just think she's weak on the turf overall.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to have to improve a little bit. I mean, that was a nice field in the regret, but you're right. I mean, she's run 2 races on the turf. She hadn't placed in either one of them. That's always a concern for me. I know that she was ran against good competition, but I still want to see some turf form from a horse making its 3rd turf appearance like Everland. Naomi Beach is obviously a contender. I thought Do It Diva, the 2 horse, had a shot in her stakes debut for Jonathan Thomas. I think it's great they brought these stakes back, Ashley. They were washed off the turf about a month ago, and they brought back this race and the Caesars, which is race 5 at Horseshoe Indy. Looking forward to these stakes tomorrow.
And before we talk about what else we're watching for this weekend, we have a whole lot of promos at TwinSpires this weekend. Starting with our summer selected races money back offer, you can get up to $10 back on your first win bet if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd, specifically at Colonial Downs in race 6 and 7. So we talked about a couple of those races. And then we have Saratoga race 5, 10, and 11 on Saturday. And then on Sunday as well, we have Saratoga in race 1, race 8, and 9, that money back offer. So be sure to opt in before you make your bets at those tracks. We have the Ellis Park leaderboard on Sunday. You can play for a chance to win a portion of a $2,500 prize pool this Sunday, July 14th. And then I wanted to mention for harness players, it's Meadowlands Pace Night on Saturday. We have a $10 money back offer as well. And then we have Oak Grove closing weekend. They close on Tuesday, but we have $100,000. Let's see, what is it? I had it in my notes and now I can't find it, but it's our Kentucky Sire Stakes for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. And we have Ray Catolo covering Oak Grove, and actually he has a little promo for us to watch to get us ready for this exciting weekend at Oak Grove.
This Sunday, only one place for you to be. $1 million on the line. One champion to be crowned in each of the 8 divisions, highlighting the very best the Bluegrass State has to offer. And a matchup between Midwest champion Little Rocket Man and the fastest pacer ever over the track, Admiral Hill. One thing to do, one place to be this Sunday. And we'll see you then.
All right, you heard it right there from Ray Catolo. I'm not quite sure what the headwear is. That like a Midsummer reference? I'm not entirely sure.
Why didn't you show all those fire hydrants early in it? I don't know.
That was certainly a very artistic take on Oak Grove. So very well done, Ray Catolo. Thank you for that. Now let's move on to what else we're watching for this week. And so James, what are you going to be keeping an eye on?
Well, I'm going to highlight Woodbine has two stakes on Saturday's card, including the My Deer Stakes for 2-year-old fillies at 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta. And this race got a 9-horse field. I'm a little interested in number 8, Carlisle Bay. off of a really sharp debut win. She debuted on the synthetic track last month or back in late May, excuse me. It was a short field, but you could see she showed good speed from the inside, went right to the lead. I think she just went as fast as she had to go in this race. So the early fractions weren't really like blitzing like fast like some of the other maiden races that runners in this race are coming out of. But I just love the way she finished. And I do think she has a good natural speed. I think this is a race that she'll only improve upon. And one thing about Carlisle Bay, like I said, she's a $400,000 daughter of Speightstown. She is ridden by Emma Jane Wilson. And Emma Jane Wilson last night on Thursday evening or Thursday afternoon at Woodbine broke Julie Krohn's all-time earnings record for a female jockey in North America, or I think in the world. Julie Krohn, a Hall of Famer, great rider in her own regard, and Emma Jane Watson surpassed her mark yesterday on Thursday. Emma Jane herself is nearing 2,000 career wins. Been a top rider at Woodbine for years, and congratulations to her on setting the record. And best of luck on Carlisle Bay, too, on Saturday, because I like that filly's chances in the My Deer Stakes. Emma Jane wasn't the only jockey, Ashley, to set a milestone this week. Perry Oots, 3 days after he turned 70, became the oldest recorded rider to ever win a thoroughbred race at Belterra Park. Still going strong at age 70. I thought one interesting piece of news surrounding his accomplishment, he has won 35 riding titles at Belterra/River Downs. Belterra used to be River, now it's Belterra. But he's won 35 riding titles at that Cincinnati Oval, and he's in the top 5 right now, still going strong. I think he said it's getting harder to get mounts in his old age, but he's still winning races. So congrats to Perry Oots, and congrats to Emma Jane Wilson.
Certainly impressive, especially being 70 years old. I hope I'm still able to be that active when I'm 70.
He said he celebrated by going and eating a steak,
Oh.
which I thought that would be like you wouldn't anticipate a jockey saying that.
Right. It's probably like a sirloin. But anyway. So for my what else, I will be watching Integration. I know this is a horse that you have had on your radar for a while too, James. And this is at Colonial Downs. It's the Million Preview Stakes, which is, of course, a prep for the Arlington Million next month at Colonial. And Integration had a very hot start as a 3-year-old, won his first 3, broke his maiden at Colonial, won the West Virginia Derby over Program Trading, who has since really taken off. And then as a 4-year-old, Integration has struggled, 0 for 3, has I believe, 4th place and 5th place finishes. And I think coming back to Colonial, dropping class here as well, this should be the recipe to get him back to the winner's circle. There was all this hype around him, but then as a 4-year-old, just hasn't been able to come through. Now Program Trading has really kind of taken off, as one of the top turf runners in the country. But Integration is the even money morning line favorite in this field. I think it'll be very tough to beat him here. This is one of our races for our handicapping contest as well. And I know, James, you were looking for the strategy of not backing such a short price. So who did you end up going with here?
I'm going to take on Integration with number 2, 911 Turbo. He's second off the layoff for Drysdale. Even if that horse is offering big odds in this field, I might even look at an exacta with Integration over that runner. One thing about Integration is I'm glad to see that Shug McGahee at Colonial Downs, I'll just point this out, 9 for 18 last year. He won 9 of 18 starts, so he looks forward to this Colonial meet. And Kendrick Carmouche was up for his maiden win in the Virginia Derby last year, and maybe even the Hill Prince. And then after those races, he switched jockeys. So I'm glad he's putting Kendrick Carmouche back on Integration.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I guess I might have had some problems there.
Yes, on our internet day. It's okay. Thanks, operator, in our handicapping contest for sure. Because I think some people probably went with more of your angle of getting a better price for that maybe place or show payout. So best of luck to you in week 4 as we close out this handicapping contest. That's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires Jury. Of course, head to our social channels to learn more about our fantasy handicapping contest. Of course, check out our promos at TwinSpires and the TwinSpires app and TwinSpires.com. And we'll be back next Thursday.